Hey, what's up, everybody? And today I have Brandon Gazaway, ripnation.com. Thanks for being here, man. We met just, I don't know, a week or two weeks ago at Stuman's $1 Million Mastermind, and I was just on Brandon's podcast here last week, and he's returning the favor for me, and we hit it off and at the event when we met, and just an incredible guy with an incredible story. So I can't wait to hear it. So thanks for being here, Brandon.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So, well, first off, I want to, because I asked this question to everybody. The name of the podcast is Championship Leadership. What comes to mind for you first when you hear championship leadership?
Man, legacy. That may be an odd answer.
I love
but that's what developed my leadership. I grew up as a preacher kid, so the leadership's always kind of been pushed in a kind of a de facto way, but it didn't change. I mean, my girls changed me a little bit, but my son made me realize that I got to be a leader. I mean, with having, when you got a mini me, it changes things. That legacy and that leadership steps up a couple notches. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about it, like your story. We were off air, just small talk, and asked a question, and you kind of went on and I was like, oh, this stuff is good. Like, we got to be recording this. So come back to it. But yeah, talk about it. Maybe, as a kid, you talked about being a preacher's son, preacher's kid. And so how did that, potentially help to mold you into who you are? I can imagine that's, it's a unique mix, right? I'll let you tell the story, but I think like preacher's son, you kind of get the dad with those duties and responsibilities is getting pulled to a lot of other families. And sometimes the preacher's family gets the scraps, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case for you, but it would be a tough to balance that as a preacher because when you're in that position, you're in it for a reason, because you're, there to serve God and to serve others as well. But yeah, talk maybe about just, any of the leadership characteristics and traits that you've gotten in that environment growing up, and a little bit into the story of what you're doing today as well.
Absolutely. Being a preacher kid was, it had its good points. It had a lot of good teaching points. I won't say it was fun. It was, it taught me the importance of transparency and being transparent is one of those things that just in yesterday's church, in those churches, that I grew up in, a lot of fronts were put on. You didn't talk about your problems. You didn't have problems because that meant you were going to hell.
Yeah.
And, I think in the last year, I've really realized to be thankful for those things. I used to be bitter. It used to drive me in a bitter sense.
Yeah.
Never at God, never at the church. Didn't want to plug in and really get connected in the church, but I wanted to, always for my dad's missteps as far as putting on that front. There could be hell going around us, and it was, oh, you can't talk about that. I'm going, well, why not? This is supposed to be your family, right?
Yeah.
And so I've grown to be transparent, even with my kids. I'm transparent as much as I can be on their level of things. And for me, it's been a real eye opener that, you go through crap, things happen, and to realize that, I want to be a leader in a different fashion. Growing up, I'm sure you're the same. Leaders didn't have a chink in their armor. They didn't have a stain on their shirt. They didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
They were above. They kind of hovered above normal life, and that's not true.
Right.
We all have problems. We all have issues, and so for me, it's changing that culture and changing that generational mindset with my kids, and stopping that avatar, if you will, or that mask with me, and creating a new legacy with my kids. So I mean, that was really, at least in this stage of my life, that's what I took away from the preacher's kid part of it. There's a different type of leadership.
Yeah, that's interesting that you were able to take that from that, right? That's kind of, it's not what was modeled, but yet you were kind of questioning why, which is interesting, you know, especially as a young buck, right? It's like you kind of, you can tend to just kind of go with the flow and you just don't know any different. So you just kind of, many would maybe just, that's how they would end up being into their adult life too, because that's what was modeled for them. But for you to question that and then to take that as something that you would learn from and want to do differently, right? And
Yeah, it's you know, you can be bitter about things, or you can. And I never wanted to grow up bitter. I never wanted to grow up with you know, having that hatred, or that, you know, I'd use some of those issues to fuel me, especially in the gym. But you know, I kind of like to be happy. I think it's kind of normal to be happy. So how do
yeah,
you take what you've learned and twist it is kind of the key to anything in life. You know, it can be what to do or what not to do. And you know, unfortunately, I got taught a lot of what not to do. And
yeah,
so, but you take that and you twist it for a positive purpose.
yeah, that's the power right there when you can take it and use it for yourself to move forward. So how did that, you know, because you mentioned, like, I can think of coaches that I've had, I could think of other leaders growing up, like you said, where it was almost like weakness or chinks in the armor, if you will, is looked to as weakness, right? Or
Yep.
what really it is just like being human. You know, having,
Yeah, exactly.
everyone's got vulnerabilities and areas of weakness, quote unquote weakness. But yeah, you know, the leaders that you could, like, if I think of sports, like Bob Knight is kind of someone that comes to my mind growing up, where like you didn't question that dude. Like, no way in hell did you question that guy. And you know, it's like his stuff don't stink, right? You know, I mean, to
Yeah,
today,
but if you
he
look at
did.
him, he showed his weakness. I mean, his
Yeah,
temper
right.
was shown on display. He was unapologetic about it, which made his unique character. But people
Yeah.
go, "Oh no, he didn't show a weakness. He threw a chair across a court.
That's
That's pretty
exactly what
weak." I mean,
I think of, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, do that today and he'd be fired before the game ended, you know, which,
oh
so
yeah,
we, with this overreaction to things nowadays, it's crazy, right? You can't just go into the middle. It's got to be from one spectrum to the other. But how have you taken that, you know, maybe talk first a little bit about your story, like what do you do, Rip Nation, and how you got there. You were talking, I live in Minnesota and we were having a conversation because you were in the uh, wind energy field for quite some time, and so we got talking because there's a lot of windmills around here, and turns
yeah,
out you've actually been up here quite a bit to work on a lot of those, or to, but yeah, so tell us your story from maybe there to what got you to where you're at today with Rip Nation.
yeah. So I started building wind turbines when I was about 25. And when I say build, I was managing others. I didn't do a whole
So
lot
you
of it.
weren't up 300 feet in the
No,
air.
I've been up there, but 270 pounds don't get up those ladders
Yeah,
quickly.
no
So
kidding, man.
you know, if I came up, there was going to be some heads rolling. That was that
So
was kind of the
quick
rule of thumb.
quick caveat, like, did anyone ever get seriously hurt, like?
You know, I was blessed because I was the director of safety, so
Okay.
that was a big thing, and a lot of
Yeah,
where I learned how to build culture. Um, Nobody got seriously hurt. We had some bumps, some bruises.
that's good.
Uh, you know, a couple of sites I wasn't on, tipped over some cranes. You know, typical
Yeah,
headache.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
know, people are like, "Oh my God, tipped over cranes." Yeah, it happens. It sucked, but nobody killed. Nobody
Oh,
you
that's
know,
good.
died. Nobody
Yeah,
permanently disabled or anything like
yeah.
that.
Awesome.
Thank God. But
Yeah, no doubt.
um, yeah, so we you know, at 27, 28, 27, I became went from a field safety guy to the director of safety to the director of renewable energies for the world's largest crane company, all in about 12 and a half months.
Wow.
They had some major transition. And I didn't know budgets. I didn't know business, right? I ran a safety department. We operated off a different set of margins. And so
Yeah.
suddenly at 27, I get thrust into, you're the director of this division. for all of the Western Hemisphere, and they threw Australia. I don't know
That's
how that map
crazy.
worked. Um,
Young
but
age.
I didn't have any kind of tools or resources. They had come in, bought out the company I was working for, and fired everybody except me because I was the only American in the office.
Oh,
And
really?
they thought, oh, you're American, you should surely know how to run the whole business.
Yeah.
You know, I had kind of that Richard Branson mentality. If somebody offers you an opportunity, say yes and figure it out.
Take it. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you can bite off quite more than you can chew if you do that.
There's a
So,
lot to be said about that, isn't there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said yes and I figured it out, but there was a
Yeah.
lot of sleepless nights and
I bet.
um, but yeah, so I did that for 3 years, and they decided they wanted to relocate me to either South America or Holland. And you hadn't met my wife yet, but my wife ain't going out of the lower 48. Let's just say
Like,
that. So uh,
Holland.
yeah, they wanted me over in just north of Amsterdam. There was
Okay.
their headquarters. She wasn't having that, and I
No.
didn't blame her. We were
Yeah.
7.5 months pregnant with my youngest, my son,
Uh-huh.
and I walked in and quit my job.
Yeah.
Freaked everybody out. My wife, my mother-in-law was like, "What are you doing? You got this great job," and I was
Yeah.
making, you know, pretty amazing money for being a corporate guy, and
Yeah.
just wasn't aligning with my soul, wasn't aligning with what I had, and I said, I'm going to be a consultant, and
Well, that's
you know,
you know, first of all, I don't want to gloss over that because, you know, that age making that kind of money and to just, you know, that's what championship leadership's all about. Because I don't know that I would have been able to make that decision. And good for you, especially at that point in your life, to do that. Like you said, you know, to take a stand for what you want. Championship leaders are not afraid to make those kind of decisions. What when they just feel like that's the one that needs to be made. Outside looking in, it's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Like, you know, there's something wrong with you to take that step. But obviously, it's worked out for you. But yeah, talk more about that maybe.
yeah. So it's, you know, for me, it's a little bit of a gambler's mentality. You know, I'll roll the dice because in my head, if I'm doing it for the right reasons, what's the worst that can happen? I always tell my wife, as long as I'm breathing and my heart's beating, God's got an opportunity for me to progress and help other people. And so that's been kind of my mindset is, you know, take a chance. And
Yeah,
yeah, you know, timing's never going to be perfect. I
yeah,
laugh, especially at those young couples that, oh, we're going to have kids in 3 years. Yeah, I had a 5 year plan, and I
yeah,
had all of them in 5 years. That was not the plan. They flipped it on me, but it's cool. I mean, that's, you know, I think when you're able to make those decisions and adapt accordingly is when you find true freedom. You find freedom in because you're not dictated by happenstance or what may come around you. You're focused on what you're gonna do, and you though you may have to pivot and you know, kind of position yourself differently than what you thought it was going to go. Ultimately, you're still going to get to where you want to go because you took that risk and you focused on it. I mean, that's,
yeah,
you know, kids and life and wife and finances and all of that will get in the way. It's no matter, you know, you can't go from making, you know, over 400,000 to working for yourself and there not be some of that happen, right?
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
it
How old
wasn't
are you
for
right
me.
now?
I am 36. I'll be 37 next month.
36, 37. Yeah, man. I mean, like that's a lot of stuff you're talking about that I didn't figure out probably till just these last few years, man. Seriously, like, um, yeah, just, you know, it's not your plan, it's God's plan, and it's never going to work out how you would like it or hope it to. But just knowing that, like, it will work out, right? It always does. It just always does. It always works out. And there's, you know, there may be very well be some low points, some dips, some rock bottoms along the way, but you just know that it always will work out, especially if, you know, it doesn't work out just by you just being like, well, it's going to work out, and then you don't do anything, right? I mean, I know that's
Yeah.
not what you did. Obviously.
No. And it's something, not to get behind a pulpit and preach, but I was ground and pound in my head as a kid that, oh, you wait on the Lord, you wait on the Lord. And
Yeah.
I watched the saints of the church sit back on their thumbs
Uh-huh.
and oh, I'm just waiting. No, that's not what God called you to do.
Right.
God calls you to bust your tail until He decides to give you the answer, until it's
Yeah.
the right time. And so, for me, it's I'll never wind up under a bridge if I give it all I got every day.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's my mentality is what's the worst that can happen if I'm going out there and crushing everything I can with the spirit of excellence. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
You can't put
I
that
love
much
it.
effort and that much focus and positivity into life without something, whether it's the force of average or whatever you guys want to call it.
Yep.
You can't put that much. You are a force to be reckoned with. And when that power and that force aligns with your focus and you're going through, life doesn't have a choice but to give you what you want eventually.
Yeah.
It's just how long is your commitment to get to that eventually point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautifully said, man. And I love it. The spirit of excellence. Yeah, that's cool. So you make the decision. Your wife's 7.5 months pregnant. You're making over 400K as a young man, and yeah, you got life. Life is pretty good theoretically, right? Obviously, there are some things that weren't right for you. That's why you made the decision. But so then what? What happened then?
So everybody thinks entrepreneur is sexy, right? I'm an entrepreneur. Where's my Ferrari and jet? Where's
Yeah.
my Range Rover? Um, and so it was right about the time that really started hitting Facebook, and everybody got their rubber band rolls and
Yeah.
standing
Right.
outside their Ferrari and their private jet. And so I thought that's what I decided to do. We were going to do it. And
Yeah.
so, fast forward about 2 years, I realized I was traveling 40, 45, sometimes even 48 months
Yeah.
or 48 weeks a year.
Wow.
And doing this while I'm doing the power team. Uh, so I'm in Brazil. I'm coming back and speaking at schools and churches.
Yeah. What's the
I'm in,
power team? What's that?
so the power team, if anybody's been in church in the last 30 years, they've seen the guys come and rip the phone books, blow up the hot water bottles,
Yeah.
break the bats, roll the pans. So we did that actually for a team called Strike Force. After
Okay.
power team kind of went defunct, I still do it for them.
Yeah.
But so I'm bouncing out to foreign countries to deal with uh, my projects, and then I'm bouncing back in to go speak at an inner city school, and there's switches in there that were just they were crazy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's developing that ability to swap your atmospheres and control or influence those atmospheres is something I had to learn, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I can or vividly remember going down to Panama. I had a bunch of guys from Oklahoma working on these wind turbines, right? So I'm dealing and Chinese wind turbines at that. So I've got China nationalists, the Panamanian government, and a bunch of good old boys from Oklahoma. I'm
It
like,
sounds like
I
it sounds like one of those jokes, man, right? Like
oh yeah,
the
yeah.
rabbi, the priest, and the whatever. Yeah.
For me, going in there, dealing with all that political grease, that was my very last job where after that, I said, I'm done. I retire at 33. That was maybe a bit of a
Yeah.
misstep, but going there, and then I had to come back, and we were doing breaking bats and stuff for the troops in Colleen. And so it was like I swapped from having to do three different cultures, very different cultures,
Yeah.
trying to get them all to get along, come back, and I'm breaking bats for troops and rolling pans, doing all that we do,
Yeah.
and I got to be the motivational guy, right? I got
Yeah.
to have a motivational speech, and I'm like, but I just got out of that. Making those switches, man,
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah.
Um, I envy guys that can do that, that can
Yeah.
swap and influence an atmosphere on the turn of a dime. But yeah, so we got done with that dear job down there in Panama, and I said I'm done, and I
Okay.
shut up
Yeah.
shop. I cashed out.
Yeah.
We at that point I was somewhere between $7 and $8 million net worth. thought,
Mm-hmm.
we can make some investments. I can semi-retire.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you earlier, I went on two week-long cruises. Never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
Got on. I told my wife we hadn't taken a real vacation in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I said, honey, my sister-in-law is a travel agent. I said, call Jana. I need a trip. I need
Yeah.
away from everybody. Someplace a cell phone don't work.
Yeah.
And if anybody's known me for a long time, I've got a cell phone glued to my hand the last
Yeah.
decade or more.
Yeah.
So we took a cruise. And it was just me and her, kind of like a second honeymoon.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Got kind of rejuvenated.
Yeah.
I came back for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and I built a deck on the back of the house, kind of just chilling. And I told her, I was like, we got to go on another one. I need another week of this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, 3-4 weeks after the first one, we take the second one, and my sister-in-law and her family came with us and had a great time. But I realized on that trip that, what am I going to do to what's my passion? I had all this money, more money than we had ever had.
Yeah.
Could really do, temporarily, now looking at it, temporarily could do whatever I wanted for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'd always been in the gym, always working out, and I was like, man, I want to get to something in fitness.
Uh-huh.
And so we looked at gyms. We looked around. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had an opportunity to buy a couple gyms, and they just weren't the right fit. And so my wife goes down to visit her mom and dad and grandma and grandpa at that time. And while she's down there, went to a bodybuilding competition for my training partner who was competing, and met this guy, got to talking. He invited me. He actually owned a supplement shop in my hometown here in Frisco. He invited me, and little did I know, talk about a closer. He had me picked, wanted to look at it. I didn't even know I was buying nothing.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to come see this cool supplement.
Just come to check it out.
Yeah. I walk in, we talk, and about an hour and a half later, I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
And so
what just happened? Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had that conversation with your wife, but calling her and go, hey, honey, we own a supplement shop. That's not the easiest phone call to make.
Yeah,
she was okay with it, but it was like, you did what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and by tomorrow I'll own 2. And
you
so
can
I
have
went
another one.
48 hours later, I dumped, I got another one, and we kind of took the culture. And it was really where I understood that I could build a culture. I could build an atmosphere and a culture. I knew I could in safety and construction sites, but when you got a bunch of men out in a foreign place, whether domestic or not, it's still foreign. It's not their home. It's pretty easy to build a culture because they're secluded, and that's all you got. It's kind of your temporary family of choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole nother thing to come into somebody's community and build a culture that people get around and they want it. They're attracted to it. So I really understood that was the power of what I could do. I could take and build a culture around. We weren't your GNC. We weren't your vitamin shop. We were a culture for the bodybuilders, for the powerlifters. We were extreme. We were intense. It was, muscles and tattoos and graffiti on the walls. And so it was just everything that embodied what I loved about fitness.
Yeah.
And people really rallied around it. We went from 1 shop or 2 in 48 hours, 2 shops to 8 shops within about 8 to 10 months.
Crazy.
And so we were the fastest growing in Texas. It took off. And, looking back, I scaled too quickly.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. Not every opportunity is the right opportunity.
Yeah.
And when you're offered, hey, let's scale here. Hey, let's scale there. I was yes. And we could, without dipping into my funds too much, one store would pop up, blow up, and then I could use those profits to open up another one. And so we just kind of folded over and over and over, and they sustained, but it was, I didn't have any infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so I became your resident FedEx man inside Dallas here.
Yeah.
I had a Toyota Tundra. I think we were talking about that when you were down here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I get up in the morning. I go down to the Europa, the supplement distribution company. I'd load up my truck and go distribute to all 8 stores.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I'd run back around and try to make sure the business was going. And
Yeah.
it took a toll on me.
Yeah.
Um, and so for the first time ever in my life, I decided to abort a dream I had short of what I had done. And so I signed the papers, and my wife kept asking me, "Are you sure?" And I said, "It isn't right. It's going to take a lot of work." You know, all the excuses, right?
Yeah.
And all the what I call justifications, all the excuses. I signed it, and 2 hours later, I told her, I said, "I made the biggest mistake of my life."
Really?
Um,
Yeah.
Tried to go back and tried to go back to consulting, and man, I hated it. It bombed. It blew up in my face. My heart wasn't in it, and really learned a lot through the struggle that if your heart's not in something, you're not going to do it with excellence.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you try it, and I really tried to do it because for me it was autopilot. You know, just doing a windside. I'd done over 10,000 turbines at that point. It was, you know, what is it, 10,000 hours to master something.
Yep.
I had done 10,000 turbines. There wasn't much about a wind turbine you couldn't
Yeah.
tell me. But I realized the difference between doing something with excellence and going through the motions.
Yeah.
Even though your motions may be the expectation of excellence for that client, man, my heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
You know, good enough was good enough for me, and so we decided to pivot out of that and invest. And so I invested heavy into some fitness products. I had bought a line, and that all blew up. Bad partnerships didn't really
Blew up in a bad way.
yeah, in a very bad way.
Yeah. Okay.
Almost landed me bankrupt.
Wow.
I went from 33 being you know, multimillionaire to
Yeah.
35 working at a moving company because I didn't know what happened. Houses for sale,
Crazy.
sold the truck, sold all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Just to, you know, there's a point in time and a low, and in between all that, I had snapped my bicep off my forearm, so I couldn't go do the feats of strength.
Oh, wow.
And for those of you that don't understand, lifting weights and lifting heavy stuff, it's kind of my identity, or was my
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
To the point my in-laws have furniture to move. They waited for the holiday that Brandon was going to come down.
Of course. Yeah.
So not it's still hard for me to describe without getting kind of emotional, but I went through an identity crisis.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't want to do wind, and every door I just tried to get something to bring in, it slammed shut. I knew you know, my passion was fitness, but all of that wiped out. You know,
Yeah.
no blame, just bad partnerships for one reason or another. And oh, by the way, you're not even going to get to lift weights either.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And
Right.
so I went through a mental struggle that I've never experienced. Hope I don't ever have to go through something like that again. But I came out the other side and realized that, you know, first of all, the working at the moving company brought me back down. I had made enough money that, you know, as you level up, sometimes you forget the grassroots, right?
Yeah.
And working with guys, it taught me two things. Working with those guys, gave me that blue collar that there's nothing I can't do. There's, you know, you give me a piece of furniture, I can do it. And they didn't realize, I mean, like, man, you're working hard. I've never seen people like you.
Yeah.
They didn't realize I was working through some crap in my mind, and
Yeah.
those pieces of furniture were moving mountains mentally, and
Yeah.
they didn't understand that.
Right.
First of all, I'm pushing my arm that I just had surgically repaired,
Yeah.
lifting couches and all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
And second of all, understanding those guys' mindsets, I didn't even realize I was, you know, monitoring how they lived, right?
Yeah.
And how I did, you know, again, taught me how I didn't want to live.
Yeah.
Not that they were all bad; they just had a different set of values.
Yeah.
And so when I worked there for about 3 months, and I said, I can't do this. This isn't me. This isn't what I want to do. I'm done. And my wife's like, great. Well, we sold the house. We got a little bit of cash to live off of. Got a lease now. It's all great that it's not what you want to do. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So,
Let's figure this out.
you know, God, and I, you know, for me, it's God.
Yeah.
God had a gentleman, a good buddy of mine that I hadn't talked to in probably 4 or 5 years since I owned the stores, reach out to me. And he's a younger guy that knows chemistry like nobody's business. I mean,
Yeah.
extremely uber talented in formulations in supplements. And he reached out to me, said, "Man, I hadn't talked to you in a long time. Let's get together. Let's talk." So I went and met him that day. I said, "Hey, where you at?" I didn't even know he was in the neighborhood I had just moved in. He lived right
Really?
across the neighborhood. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we sat down and talked, and within an hour or two, we decided we were going to start making supplements. Didn't really know how. I had it, like I said, just a minute amount of cash, especially what I was used to operating off of. So I bought some raws, and we started making male enhancement pills. I said fat burners. I didn't want to, you know, shock the
Yeah.
crowd in Dallas.
Right, right.
We kind of we put the Disney spin on that, but I have to tell you, my wife called me out of everything I had said in there. She goes, "Fat burners," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, right, it burns fat." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we started making male enhancement pills on my kitchen counter with a piece of plexiglass, and we ordered the pills, and you know, we both knew how to do it, but man, I mean, neither one of us knew how it was going to go. All we knew is that we were going to make these, package them up the best we could with what we had, and go to the gas station and start selling them. It caught fire. I mean, we
Yeah.
went from making a couple hundred to making a couple thousand, and we took that money and then bought a capper machine
Uh-huh.
that made 30,000 an hour.
Oh, wow.
And then we started getting requests for fat burners and vitamins and other things. And so we went from my kitchen counter to my garage.
Yeah.
You know, that was an upgrade there for a minute.
Right.
And so we did that, and then a couple months into that, I mean, we were making some pretty decent money.
Yeah.
Something I thought, man, this could be possible, but we're gonna have to get it to a facility.
Yeah.
And I still only invested personally $1,500 in a kilo of raw ingredients
Uh-huh.
to do this. So a friend of ours calls me up, goes, "Hey man, I know this liquid supplement facility that he's looking for somebody to take over. He just wants a partner. He'll give you the majority. Are you interested?" So, well, I'm always interested, especially no money down. All he's looking
Yeah.
for me to do is expand it. Let's talk. So went in there. Of course, you know, you get something painted white and pretty, and you don't see the crap behind it. And
Yeah.
there was some issues, but nothing
Yeah.
nothing I hadn't ran into, nothing I couldn't solve. So we laid out a plan, a tactical action plan of how we were going to get him profitable. He was about 90K a year in the red. When we laid it out, he had he's an older gentleman, and he had just lost his wife before he talked to us. And
Oh,
you know,
wow.
he said, "Guys, I love the plan, and I'm down for it, but I'm not down for it."
Yeah.
Crap! I just wasted a bunch of time.
Yeah.
Little did I know he was going to sign over the whole thing to me.
Wow.
Zero down, didn't want no money. I instantly went from you know, doing pills in my garage to about a $6-7 million facility. And so
For free, basically. Not for free, but
basically, yeah,
wow.
basically for free.
No
Um,
kidding.
yeah, so
Dude, like
it
talk about God, man. Like seriously.
yeah, I mean,
I
you know,
mean, come
I
on.
know not everybody, that's not how they roll
Wow.
religiously, but for me,
They're
man,
not here, right?
there's
So
yeah, there's no
and they don't
explanation,
have to
man.
listen if they don't want to. So
I like that.
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you know, God drops this in me, and see, people don't understand. There's still trials within your blessing. There's still tests within blessing,
Yeah.
right? So we get this whole thing signed off to us. I didn't know the building was falling
Dude,
apart. I
it's so
mean, it just
crazy,
looked like,
man. Seriously.
yeah. So you get these highs, and then you get these lows, and you know, even now there's still highs and lows. And I I told Ryan
There
yesterday, I was
always will
texting
be, right? There always will be.
people, and as I go through this process, I understand that it's not about the highs and lows, because every leader, everybody has one, right? They have them at the same time. They're in the valley and the peak of the mountain
Yeah.
at the same time, and you don't realize it. it's not about the condition. It's about how you respond to that condition.
Yeah.
You can be on top, you can be on bottom, but if you're cool as a cucumber, you're, brushing your teeth while bullets are whizzing past your head, to steal a Goggins term.
Yeah.
That's the true mark of being a leader. That's the true mark of consistency, right? I mean,
man.
you're going through, I got now a $10 million facility, and guess what? I got $10 million problems.
Yeah,
I mean,
problems are just
not
magnified at that level, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what people go, oh, if I get money, it'll solve everything. No, man, there's problems with that.
Yeah.
There's, not to quote Notorious, but more money, more problems.
That's right.
It is the absolute truth. And I talked about it last night, but you when you get delusionally optimistic about things and you understand that those problems that are coming are only a step up for you to level up to that next level. Those new levels, new devils.
Yeah.
When those devils come, it's because you're about to advance to that next level.
Yep.
And as a leader, when you can see that problems come and you start laughing, you're not freaking out. I used to freak out and, have to go somewhere and scream or go to the gym and work out and get rid of the stress. I don't know, it's God working in me, but I don't know how I've swapped all that, right? It pivoted my mindset that when people come in and harm the company or try to, or, things don't go as planned and I've got orders back ordered or a machine breaks down, I'm like, I got you. Yeah. All right. Well, we go ahead. And my partners look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, y'all better get excited. Y'all better get your minds right because we fixing to progress.
Coming. That's right.
My chemist is like, dude, the machine just broke. How is that progression? I said, because if it broke, that means we're fixing to get a new one or something better is fixing to come along.
Yeah.
He kind of looked at me. I said, mark it down. And, part of it's the belief. Part of it, I believe, is God showing you that, count it all joy. Even when you go through these trials, there's something better on the other side. That trial is to prepare you for something better. So that's kind of how I try to lead the mindset of this, and it's progressed. I mean, we're almost an 8-figure company. We'll be by the end of Q2.
And when did you start this company again?
On paper, January. This company and this facility.
Dude, this year.
Yeah, this year. Of course,
that's incredible, man. That's awesome.
A couple years of just pure focus, burning the boats, no choice but to succeed.
Yeah.
That made us the overnight success, as they like to call it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Man,
well, like I said, everything that's happened to you has led you to this, right? I mean, just it's what you had to go through to be where you're at.
Well, and Nate, I had laid down, I've got a full coaching program, a full website, trying to do actually what you and Satima and Ryan and all you guys do.
Yeah.
I had laid all that and pushed to the side to get this up and going.
Yeah.
Because I needed financially, I needed a base, right?
Yeah.
Because despite the dreams of grandeur, I don't believe that a lot of speakers make a lot of money from speaking as much as they do coaching, or maybe I can be proved wrong, but I ain't made that much.
Yeah.
So, I laid that aside and really just told God, I said, if I never speak, it's okay. If this is how I affect people's lives, it's okay. And little did I know that Ryan was going to call me up and go, hey, man, I want you on the $1 Million Mastermind.
Yeah.
He called me and I was like, shut up, man. You ain't never asked me to speak in your office, let alone on the biggest stage you got, right? He's like, I want you to break bats. And I was like, oh, you want me to be circus sideshow? He's like, no, man, relate it to people. It's breaking through. And I was like, you're really serious, right? I hadn't broken a bat in 2 years.
Oh, really?
I didn't advertise that to the crowd. Actually, I kind of wanted to, and
you should have.
Coming up stuff kind of threw me. But since I had popped my bicep, I hadn't broke one on stage in 2 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
I got there that morning. I rolled the pan and broke a bat in the back to make sure I could still do it.
Yeah.
little nervous, have a little warm up.
Yeah.
And then I got out there and did it. And so
it was awesome.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, you can lay stuff down for a season, but if God's got that call in your life, it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
And, now I feel like I've got somewhat of an authority to stand up and tell people I've been through it.
Yes.
You can't tell me you're
Yeah,
going to lose,
absolutely.
because if you say you're going to lose, it's because you don't have belief that you can win. And I've been on both sides of that statement, so my whole goal with this company and everything I do is to help individuals that will help the masses. That's the whole goal in leading this company and everything we're involved in, Rift and the manufacturing facility.
Incredible story, man. I love it. That's a good place to wrap it up.
Awesome.
Let's before we do that, how can they find you? And then I'll ask one final question too here before we get out. But how do they find more about you? Like you said, I know you said you got a website yourself, but Rip Nation, of course, as well. And just let the listeners know, and we'll put this all in the show notes also.
Awesome. Ripnation.com is our brand line and our website. You can find me on Facebook under Brandon Gazaway. I think I'm the only one on there. Same thing with Instagram. I'm on YouTube, and then I've got the Outwork Yesterday podcast, which you are the next episode.
Yeah,
we're on all major channels with that as well.
Sweet, man. Yeah, so check those out, and we'll put those links in our show notes as well. So, last question here as we wrap it up is, what are one or two things you could leave in maybe it's just a summary of what we covered, because we've covered a lot, but what are one or two things you could leave the listeners with? A lot of entrepreneurs or just people wanting to get a little bit better in life, right? So one or two things you could leave them with before we close this out.
The one thing that I probably tell myself all the time is I don't look at perfection. I strive for excellence.
Yeah.
And so we're never going to be perfect, but if we can do things with the most excellence we have for today, it'll always get better tomorrow. It's imperfect action, but done with a spirit and a mindset of excellence, you'll always succeed.
Yeah.
It won't be perfect, but that's okay. Excellence is good enough.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, when you said that earlier, spirit of excellence, that really landed with me for sure. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And
thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad our worlds crossed, and
absolutely
look forward to the future together here. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.